So this is part two of the $100 million mindset with Roy H. Williams, the absolute legend of marketing and advertising. You've got to hear it. It's going to be unbelievable content, just like episode one. So have a listen, see what you think.
You know what? What people think of as a brand is usually a visual style guide. Nope. That is at best 5% of a brand. And the most powerful ads, Alan, are ads that cannot be adopted and modified to fit any company other than the company
Exactly.
it was written for.
Yeah.
The reason most ads don't work like they should is most people don't have the staying power. They don't have the patience, they don't have the commitment, and you need to be the company they think of first and feel the best about.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and taco lover Todd Liles, a coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence, are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
In having a conversation with Alan at lunch, I said, Roy's this really self-educated individual, as you just described. So my question is, what was the aha moment when you're like, oh, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this well. Storytelling in the ad is how we're going to make this work. How did you come to that realization?
Okay, it was interesting because when I was 13, I started studying the complete works of Robert Frost. It's like I could go on for hours quoting Robert Frost poems one after the other, just endlessly. I never set out to memorize any of them. And so doing that and reading great works of literature from about the age of 13, when I was 19 and I started selling advertising, I did not immediately make the connection. As a matter of fact, you go in there and you talk to business owners and they'll all tell you what they want. They want a real big crowd real quick, spend a whole lot of money. Well, believe it or not, I knew how to do that. It's like, oh, you want me to talk loud and draw a crowd? Crowds cost money, Alan. How big a crowd do you want? And I could always figure out a way to draw a huge crowd and make big things happen quickly. But see, it's not sustainable. And I realized it's about 2.5, maybe almost 3 years. So I finally realized not only do I not like doing this, I don't like the people I'm doing it for. And I mean, I just deeply and profoundly didn't like the people because I would try to explain to them, well, I'll show you that I know what I'm doing by doing this. But then we need to do something that is sustainable. And they would always say, oh, I'll tell you what, you show me what you can do, and then we'll talk about long term. And so I would show them what I could do, and they go, do that again, but better. Do it even bigger this time. And I'm going, hang on a second. The longer we keep doing this, the less well it's going to work. It isn't sustainable. No, just do it one more time. Just do it one more time. And they would never let you out of the penalty box. They always wanted you to dance, little man, dance. And so I was making tons of money and I was pretty famous, but among the wrong crowd. And finally I said, no, I'm never doing that again. I'm good at it, but it is the wrong thing to do. And I said, from now on, I'm going to start with people who have the patience to do something that isn't going to work right away. And they'll just keep doing it. And the longer they do it, the better it'll work. And I finally realized, man, it's at least 3 or 4 months, usually close to 6 months, before they really begin to see this thing gaining momentum. Most people can't hang on that long. And so when I finally just got really sick of just doing instant gratification for a bunch of weasels, I just said, nope, not doing it, starting all over with all new people. And I all of a sudden had a new presentation, and it was, hey, listen to me. The reason most ads don't work like they should is most people don't have the staying power. They don't have the patience. They don't have the commitment. And I'm telling to your face, if you're not willing to run the same typical week, I'm not talking about the same ad, but the same 7-day schedule, 52 weeks in a row, I don't want to talk to you. Now, do you want to build a brand or do you want me to pull a rabbit out of a hat?
Mm.
You know, And it's like, I'm not pulling any rabbits out of hats for anybody. And so when it was basically frustration and just being sick of it that I finally said, nope, starting over. And I've never backed down from that. And my partners will all tell you, I can get absolutely fierce when somebody starts telling me, well, they just want us to show us what we can do. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll show them. And I'll tell you what they can do after I show it to them. Okay.
That sounds about right. Roy, was there a moment or a campaign that changed everything for you?
No.
No.
There have been some major inflection points. The inflection points are the people who, once they listen to you and they trust you, and then you make the things happen that you said you were going to make happen, there are just certain people that broadcast that. There are just certain people that tell the world, and you don't ask them to.
Right.
You would never ask them to do that. And then they build your fame. And so there have been a handful of people that you do something and they see it work. And then anytime somebody asks them, wow, where did you get this idea? And they just instantly say, it's a crazy guy in Texas and he's kind of hard to like, but if you listen to him, he'll
Help you.
he knows how to do this. Yeah. And so those people are super important, and you never know who they are going to be.
Yeah.
You never know. You don't see it in advance. It always surprises you when they just keep championing you behind your back.
Right.
And so those moments have been pivotal, and those people have been pivotal. And I think most people can name who has done that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the public knows better than I do because they call us and they say, so-and-so's blah, blah, said this about you. And I'm going, all right. And it's the same handful of people, always.
It's fantastic.
You actually just altered my question. Originally, I was going to ask, why did the home service world resonate with you so deeply, which is to imply that you must really love it because you've grown really big there. But I think you actually altered it. I think, and I'm just going to make a statement and you can speak on it. From our experience, the home service residential world is just deeply connected to each other. They typically don't let good things go unknown as long as it's not in a competitive market. Alan's never going to tell anyone about Roy if they're in Houston, right? But outside of Houston, he's going to tell someone about them. So do you think that's part of the reason why? I mean, obviously you're doing amazing work, but do you think that's part of the reason why it's grown so well in the home service business, just because the community is so knit?
It is. But remember, we were way bigger in the diamond jewelry business and luxury watches for decades before I ever worked my very first home service company. And so what they have in common is this. Anytime you have a product or service with a long purchase cycle, in other words, if most of the people in America, or at least half or 2/3 of the people in America, are definitely going to buy this product or service someday, they're definitely going to do it. But nobody knows when they're going to do it.
Right.
You can't predict when they're going to do it. But this huge percent of the population is going to do it at least once, maybe twice, and the most they probably will ever do it is like 3 times. Now you're talking about engagement rings, Rolex watches, replacement air conditioning systems, replacing water heaters. And so things that are a big ticket, it's a big ticket, big decision. And everybody's going to make this big decision once, twice, 3 times in their life. Rarely 4. But nobody knows when. And you need to be the company they think of first and feel the best about. And so those are the markers of the categories that I work with. Big ticket, long purchase cycle, and you need to be the company they think of first and feel the best about. Because if they type air conditioning repair, what they're communicating to you, or if they type into Google hot water heater replacement, what they're communicating to you is, I do not have a preferred provider in this category.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody is equal in this category. And as our partner Ryan Chute says, when they type in what we call unbranded keywords, air conditioning repair, hot water heater replacement, it's a low cap click. C, conversion. A, average sale. P, profit margin. Low conversion. They type 10, they're going to click 10 different companies.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get 10 different prices. Everybody's paying for this very expensive click.
Yeah.
Okay. And whoever sells it is going to sell it for the lowest price, the lowest average, the lowest gross profit, profit margin, and the lowest average sale. And of course, it's very low conversion click. And so you pay for a whole lot of clicks. And when you actually do the math, we've done it through Service Titan. A few of our partners have AP to actually get Service Titan data and crunch it differently than the way it's normally crunched with a different dashboard. And I can actually show you the charts. It'll blow your mind. You just go, wow, you don't really make money unless they type your name into Google. And that's called a high cap click, high conversion, high average sale, high profit margin. And so you have to be the company they think of first and feel the best about, or you ain't making no money and you ain't growing.
Right.
And so anytime somebody says, well, I'm just going to throw all my money into Google, I'm saying, and I'm going to kick your ass so hard, you're going to have to unzip your pants to see. And it's like, it's just like, it's unbelievable that people do this. And I'm going, okay, I'm glad y'all are doing that because you're easy pickings for people who actually build a brand that you think of and you like and you trust.
No, that's great.
I'm sorry for getting animated.
No, that's good.
Roy, I have 3 children, and if you asked me, like, who's your favorite child, I would say that's a very unfair question. So this might be a very unfair question. Of all the brands that you've helped build, do you have a favorite?
No.
Do you have one that really sticks in your mind?
No, they all stick in my mind for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody I've ever worked with for any length of time, and remember, I have clients right now, Alan, I've worked with for 37 and 38 years.
Wow.
I mean, so I keep clients typically for decades. And what I never foresaw was private equity. Never crossed my mind when I was 19 years old that such a thing would ever exist. Because in my mind, for the first few decades, up until about 2001, people were building family businesses, keeping them in the family.
Yeah.
It was a forever thing. And so having lost 9 clients, you have to start rethinking how you're going to do things. But it usually takes anywhere from 7 years to 10 years to take a company from modestly successful to superstar successful. And every one of those people has a superpower. They have something that I think they're the greatest at of anybody I ever met. And I can tell you what I most admire about each of the person I've ever worked with, and it's never been exactly the same thing for any 2 people.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Which is funny. He's setting up because the next question are what are some of the common trends or threads or personality traits that you see in either companies or owners that actually scale to 100 million?
Commitment and competence. In other words, one of the 7 ways that I cheat is once you decide, I would like to have this person in my life. I just really like this person. It would be fun to talk to them on a regular basis, and it would be fun to help them. Well, then I have to ask myself, do they have the unconditional authority to say absolutely yes? Either they do or they don't. And then the third one is, are they capable of running a business bigger than the length of their own shadow?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people cannot run a business bigger than they are. And I'm saying, when you spot it, you say, no, this person can run a business far, far, far bigger than the business they currently own. And I'm counting on that because I don't solve operational problems. I cause them. And it's like, I don't have any solutions for operational problems. That's what I appreciate so much about Todd. Todd solves the problems that Wizard of Ads partners create.
Right.
And so we don't know. We have no solutions for any of those problems. You better have your operational poop in a group because things are going to get messy when we get involved because we're not worried about how you're going to implement it. We don't care. You have to figure that out on your own.
Right.
You have to operationalize it. And so I always look and I say, can this person, okay, run a company way bigger than they are? And if the answer is no, I'm out.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
out
fair enough.
because
Yeah.
you know why? When in the early years, Alan, I would occasionally be listening to somebody whine about why they weren't growing, and their close rate was just embarrassing. And I would actually have to say as gently as I could, "Hey, man, I'm sorry, but you're running them off faster than I can bring them in." And here's what happens when you're dealing with a true moron. They will always say, "Well, it's just a numbers game. You double my leads and I'll double my sales." And I'm going, "Actually, you won't." You know what I mean? You will figure out how to run them off faster than I can bring them in. And you'll keep whining. We're just not getting quality leads and we're not getting quality calls and we're reaching the wrong customer. It's like, shut up or
Yeah.
just shoot me. I don't want to continue this conversation. So I've become intolerant as I've gotten older, but it's because when you deal with people who know how to run their business, they don't blame marketing
Right.
for their lack of growth. They always go, "Oh yeah," because they're measuring things, they're tracking things, and they're not doing it in a biased way. They're doing it in an objective way instead of always trying to just. Matter of fact, it was actually Mark Twain that said it. He didn't use the word data, but I'm going to replace his word with data. Most people use data the way that a drunk man uses a lamppost for support, not for illumination. And so when a person wants to use data to support their bias or their prejudice or their little pet belief, they will always find a way to find the data and say, "This data proves this." And I'm going, "Actually, that data proves the exact opposite of what you're saying." A good example, and one time a client that I love to this day, and we're still close because he understood when I came back at him. He said, "Hey, man, I need you to start driving all the inquiries to the CSRs because we have a really high close rate among the CSRs and a really bad close rate on the website. So the data says drive all the calls to the phone number, not the website." And I said, "You know what?" I said, "In a database of over 30 million people that have been extensively tested, it's Myers-Briggs. 50.5%, 50.5% of America is extroverted to some degree. Now, that doesn't mean you're gregarious and talkative. What it means is that you get your energy and you get revelation and you gain knowledge through interaction with another person. Okay, the interaction gives you energy. The interaction is how you learn. Well, introversion doesn't mean that you're shy or that you're nervous around people. It means that you think to talk. And an extrovert talks to think. And so there's two different styles of information gathering and processing. 49.5% of the people are introverted. You can like it, you can lump it, you can take it down the road and dump it. Now, it's a spectrum of degrees, of course. Nobody would ever believe this, but I'm actually a fairly deep introvert. And whenever I said to my client, "Hey, man, the data isn't saying that I need to drive calls to the telephone. The data is saying fix your damn website because half of the freaking people aren't going to call your ass because they don't want to talk to some trained person who's going to, trick them and stick them with something they didn't want to buy.
Yeah.
They're not going to call that number." And I said, if I have to call an 800 number to make something happen or even make a phone call to make something happen, I'm not doing it. Have never done it. Never will do it. If I can't buy it online, I will find somebody else that can sell it to me online. That's how much of an introvert I am. And so I told my client, I said, "Man, your entire corporate culture is extroverted, and you're literally missing half of the population. Fix your damn website. Accommodate the introverts." And he went, ding, got it. That makes sense. And so he's capable of running a business much bigger than the length of his shadow because he can realize, oh, I was interpreting the data to reinforce my prejudice. And whenever he realized and he believed me, he goes, oh yeah, you're obviously right. I adore those people. I adore the people that you can give the pushback and they go, oh, wait a minute, that makes sense. Yes, let's do that. And I said, the people who can't do that,
Yeah.
none of the partners will work with them. None of the Wizard of Ads partners will work with somebody that cannot be shown something that's the opposite of their preference.
Mhm.
If that person can't understand it and think about it and maybe possibly agree to it, then yeah, we're not going to work with them.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Right. I think you said the number one marketing mistake was talking about yourself. What's a brand that you helped grow that still makes you smile every time you see it? Because, you know, from what I've heard from you today, although you made the quote, the number one marketing mistake is speaking about yourself, aren't you really speaking about the individual when you're taking what you see in them and using it to write an ad? Like,
Okay.
just help me
All right.
unpack that a
So
little bit.
listen, remember the brand
Mhm.
is talking to the customer. The spokesperson for the brand is the representative of the brand.
Right.
So if you don't feel like you know the spokesperson, if you don't feel like you would like to hang out with them. As a matter of fact, I wrote about it a couple of weeks ago in a Monday morning memo. And I actually said there were two people on YouTube with whom I have a parasocial relationship. And then I said, you know what? I better check and make sure that parasocial relationships means what I think it means. And so I Googled it. And in this memo, I said, oh, and this is what the AI overview told me when I said, what is a parasocial relationship? It says it's whenever somebody feels like they have a deep, intimate knowledge of you and a very strong connection with you, even though the other person doesn't even know you exist. They said it very often happens with celebrities and with personalities in media. And so I said, there's only two people I've ever really felt like I knew. One of them died, and I was just shattered for like 6 weeks. I mean, I was really mourning my friend.
And you never met this person, I
No,
assume?
he didn't know I
Yeah.
existed in the world.
Yeah.
But I had spent hours and hours and hours with him. There's a guy named Andrew Cross. His YouTube channel is called Desert Drifter, and he literally roams the Grand Canyon and the great high, just impossible high cliffs in the great Southwest desert, and finds these Native American, pueblos like 1,000 feet
Mhm.
in the side of a cliff, and he climbs up there, and he never touches anything or moves anything. But he will look at it, and just to go there with him, and you're the only person with him. He's looking over at you, talking to you. He's got a selfie stick,
Right.
and it's like this guy in 13 months had 68 million views,
Wow.
and from the time he posted his first video until he died 13 months later in a car wreck.
Mm.
I mean, every time he's climbing up these cliffs, you're worried about him.
Mhm.
Nope, he was sitting at a traffic light and got hit by a drunk.
Oh, God.
And so it's like I was just shattered. Now, that's a parasocial relationship. When you create a parasocial relationship, so the whole public really feels like they really know this character,
Mhm.
whether it's Dewey Jenkins or Ken Goodrich or Elmer or Aaron Gaynor, it doesn't matter, or Woody Justice, or I could go on, but I won't. The idea is they feel like they know this person. So when the person is telling you something you never knew before, you're interested in it. But then it's actually about you. And so it's what I call the hard left turn. Now, I wrote one of these just a couple days ago, about 3 days ago. As a matter of fact, 4 days ago. And it begins off mic. There's a character named Sarah, and it's like they're having this conversation before they record an ad. And she says, Brian, can I ask you a personal question? And he goes, Sarah, I have no secrets. And she says, is it true that you were born in San Francisco? And he said, yes. She says, oh, how did you become a Canadian? And he says, oh, when I was 7, I got a dad. His name was Charles Scudamore. He adopted me and made all my problems disappear. She said, "Is that why we make junk disappear?" And he goes, "Yeah, actually it is. All you have to do is point." And then she says, "Well, how did he do that?" And he says, "Well, my dad lived up to his name." And she says, "Scudamore?" And he said, "Yeah, in Italian, scuda means shield, and amore means love. And he was definitely a shield of love to me."
Wow.
And so then, all of which is true, by the way. And then when you know your client really, really well, and you know all their stories, you can make ads of that stuff.
Mhm.
And so you're really fascinated. And then Sarah says, if you have been storing items because of their sentimental value, we will be your shield of love. Just let us know, and we will put special stickers on all the things that you want us to find a happy home that will love them and cherish them. And we promise to do that for you. And so Brian said, and I'm about to break up here. I'm sorry, I'm about to start crying. But Brian actually says when somebody has something, and they inherited it, and they're like paying thousands of dollars a year to store all of this stuff that they don't need, and nobody in the family needs it, but it's just too important and too precious
To give
to
up.
sell or
Yeah.
give away or have hauled off. And he said, we will take responsibility for that. And we will find, they're talking about all these nonprofits and all of these, churches and synagogues and organizations. There's always people that are having to start over, whether it was a house fire or a bankruptcy or whatever, and says, we will be your shield of love, and we will find a happy family to adopt that furniture and give it a second chance in life and love it the same way that it was loved before. And so I'm telling you, I know exactly what people are going to do. They're going, God, that's such a great guy. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That is just such an awesome guy. And so the entrance into this offer we're going to make, it's a very sincere offer. The entrance is, why is he like that?
Mhm.
Why is this so important to Brian? Because he was adopted. He got a dad when he was 7. And matter of fact, to this day, Brian Scudamore, he only drives Italian cars. He takes all of his vacations in Italy. He likes gelato better than ice cream. He likes everything Italian. He does not have one drop, one molecule of Italian DNA.
Wow.
But he identifies as 100% Italian because his father, his dad, was Italian, and it was Charles Scudamore.
Yeah.
And so whenever you get that, now all of a sudden you connect with Brian. He really is that guy. And when he says what he's going to do and somebody else pulls out of him, why are we doing this? Remember, the end is about what we're going to do for the customer.
Right.
The rest, everything that preceded that was helping the customer understand why they're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just a way to get my money? It's like, actually, it's a way to save you tons and tons and tons of money you've been spending to store this stuff that you don't really want or need, but you need to know that somebody is taking care of this and loving it, and that you made a real difference in their life. And that, it's going to have, it's like a dog you love and you're moving overseas and you can't take it. You're not selling that dog.
Mhm.
You're going to find it a happy home.
Mhm.
And so this whole adoption of furniture that needs love, right? Yeah. And I'm going, you know why I'm willing to publish that ad? I did in the rabbit hole of the Monday Morning Memo for April 14th. Was it April 14th? Yeah, that was Monday. Anyway, the reason I publish only those ads is it is not portable.
Mm-hmm.
There is not another company on the face of the earth that could run that ad, copy that ad, modify that ad so it fit their company.
Right.
And the most powerful ads, Alan, are ads that cannot be adopted and modified to fit any company other than the company it was written for.
Yeah.
And so that takes an enormous amount of work, and it takes an enormous amount of familiarity with the client. And that's why a really, 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 really good ad writer can only have 12 clients.
Yeah.
That's it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Now
Yeah,
you
very
you
interesting.
are busy 50 hours a week
Mhm.
at a very high level of work to service 12 clients. And so choose the 12 because you're probably going to have these people for decades.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's why am I so fussy about who I work with? Because when somebody sells a private equity, I'm not twitchy. I'm not going to get nervous about replacing that.
Mhm.
I'm going to wait until exactly the right person comes along. So the last person that I connected with was Aaron Gaynor.
Yeah. And we have an example of Aaron. I don't want to show it now. I actually want to show an example that's a little closer to the heart of the Brian Scudamore ad. So let's watch the Elmer's ad.
My mom cleaned homes for a living. She earned $35 a day cleaning homes. And she did the best job ever because it wasn't about the amount of money, it was her integrity. So she taught us that as little kids going with her to work, she always did it right because it was the right thing to do. See, it's not our responsibility or our job to tell you what to do at your house. That's up to you and your budget. Our responsibility is to show you, this is the options we have, this is what's more important to take care of you right now, and this is what you could do later. So in our company, we always tell people, look, we tell our technicians, our staff, our team, do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And we take it personal that people chose us to do it. So it's a big deal to me, to our team, because we want to earn your business for life. We want your trust. Even though my mom's not with us anymore, I still strive on making her proud and say, you know what would she have done in this situation? And making sure that that carries on throughout our work and through our company and through our culture. She would absolutely be proud today, I do believe.
Yeah. What's your question?
What made that ad so special, Roy?
Elmer. What I'm saying is you never change the character. And no matter what I say about a client, when they hear me say it, they actually disagree with it. And so what I'm going to say is what I see, right? And what I know the public sees is, number one, Elmer really is too spontaneous and he is too improvisational and just too has too much energy and enthusiasm to actually read a script. And so he'll look at the script and he'll read it over and over and over, and then he'll just set it aside and ad lib. And so what you have to do is just leave the mic open and capture 15 or 20 minutes and then pull out the 30 or 60 seconds and build. So when you see those camera angle changes,
Mm-hmm.
there might have been 10 minutes in between in the cut.
Right.
So, but when you take all these little nuggets, these little chunks, and then you arrange them. So he said all of that in this long rambling narrative. And Elmer he has all of the energy and optimism 24 hours a day. Has all the energy and all the optimism of a 10-year-old boy, 12-year-old boy.
Wow.
And he's just that guy. And he won't stay on anything for a long time, but he makes everybody feel good. He makes all of his people feel good. He's just a walking beacon of light, encourager. And he's like Tigger on the Winnie the Pooh cartoons.
Yeah,
This is Tigger.
yeah.
He is Tigger. Well, it's Tigger.
Yeah.
You know, it says, let's go do things and have fun.
Hmm.
And so he is his own strange character. And you just have to go, okay, we're not going to get him to read the script. We're just going to have to show him what we're hoping he will say, and parts of it will pop out, but everything comes out with such enthusiasm and authenticity that if you could just patch it together, all these little clips, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we have to create a process for capturing Elmer, because the reason he always sounds like he's just ad-libbing is because he is. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. You know, Google's a vending machine, but your brand should be your friend. That was something you said. So
Right.
more companies are leaning on cartoon mascots, SEO hacks, Google pay-per-click to stand out. But Roy's approach has always been about relationship and resonance. Is there still a place for storytelling that transcends the algorithm? Roy?
wow, okay. What you're asking me about is SEO,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I know barely enough about SEO to talk about it illiterately. It's like not even intelligently, but a little bit. And I'll tell you a real thing that's happening right now, okay?
Yeah.
I'm 3/4 of the way through, um, all of the, chirp scripts and text responses and emails and just all the stuff which is scripted and some of the training for CSRs. I always do that after we've gotten a whole bunch of the brand development done. I'll go through and I'll do that for the client. And so the last thing you do is start rewriting the web copy. And so you want the web copy to be on brand because it's the
Right.
last thing usually to get changed because it's such a huge project. Because you not only want to change the language so that it sounds like the brand that people have grown to know and love, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing that right now. And the question is, the person who created the character can absolutely write in the voice of the brand, but that's not necessarily what makes good SEO.
Yeah.
And so SEO is a constantly moving target, constantly. Now, the person who knows everything there is to know, okay, is Jeffrey Eisenberg. Just happens to be my best friend. And so I called Jeffrey and I said, Jeffrey, this is what I'm currently thinking. And he said, you know what? About half of what you said used to be true. The other half has always been wrong. But and I said, well, look, this needs to perform really well with SEO. And he says, well, let me tell you what actually the current rules are, what the algorithms are actually doing today that most people don't realize. And he says, so these things no longer matter, but a lot of people think they still do, and they don't. And he said, the things that actually matter and the things that's actually happening, he goes, are so hard to do that you would have to give it a major part of your time and attention for months to ever be good at it. And he said, so if you create the language so that it's on brand, I said, I know lots of our partners are way better at this than me. And he said, but I don't think anybody is when it comes to SEO stuff. Now, most people who know SEO suck as storytellers. They're just horrible writers. Okay, horrible, which is why all websites look and feel the same. And I said, so finding that balance between being on brand in terms of the voice of it just feels like the person that you know, trust, and love, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's answering the questions that the algorithm wants you to answer in the way the algorithm wants you to answer the most often asked questions without saying anything anybody's ever said before. And so that's a simplification of what he was telling me. And he says, look, here's what we're going to do. You just need it done for a flat rate by somebody who can adjust what you write and make it sing for the algorithm. And I said, bingo. I said, okay, I'm going to get you somebody and just, you're going to pay them a flat rate. They're going to bring the SEO part to your. So what I'm saying, crazy hard. Yes, stories matter. Stories are essential. But stories and SEO are not easily unified.
Right.
So
Makes sense.
what I'm saying is, if you're really good at one, you absolutely suck at the other one.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was wrestling with right now as I'm going, I know it's a constantly moving target, and too many people, including myself, will kind of get an understanding of it. And then a little bit of time goes by and everything you thought you knew is no longer true.
Right.
It's a whole new set of rules.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole.
That makes sense. Makes sense. So, what do you think about the trend of cartoon mascots on service trucks today?
I have the new mascot for Elmer's new company is a cartoon. And I created that cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't have anything against cartoons, okay? There is a reason to use a cartoon. And when a cartoon fits the situation, then you should use a cartoon,
Right.
okay? But rarely is a cartoon the right answer. But when it is the right answer, it's the only answer.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is, gosh, I'm gonna say this in a very harsh way, and I just can't help I can't help it. Okay,
Go for it.
but most business owners Remember, the brand story, if it's going to be new, surprising, and different from everybody else, it has to be unique to you and your company, right?
Mhm.
Most business owners don't have the courage to star in their own damn movie. You need to star in your own damn movie. If you don't want to be the spokesperson for the company that you built with shoe leather and sweat and blood and sleepless nights and being worried about making payroll, yeah, if you don't want to be a spokesperson for that company, I don't want to know you.
Right.
And so, does that make sense to you guys?
No, total sense.
And I'm saying if you want to hide behind some little piece of graphic art and call it a brand, then you're an idiot. You know what? What people think of as a brand is usually a visual style guide.
Mhm.
They think this piece of graphic and this name and this color palette and this font and, these colors are brand colors, and they think that's a brand. Nope. That is, at best, 5% of a brand. At best. It is a visual style guide. It is not the personality of the brand.
Right.
And so, storytelling, there's a guy named Jonathan Gottschalk, okay? And he says humans are the storytelling animal. And he had this huge, huge, huge best-selling book, which my partners have read and told me what it says. And I've got some really great quotes from that book, even though I never read it. But just from the few extracted quotes that my partners have pulled out, I'm going, oh, yeah. I mean, he's a scientist. And if you read, his name is Jonathan Gottschalk, Gottschalk. And this guy, using neuroscience, and I mean, he's a scholar. And the things he explains, you're going, yeah, this is indisputable.
Mhm.
We are the storytelling animal.
Yeah.
And without story, nothing has meaning.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, Roy. Yeah. I will tell you, Roy, I was running technician meetings for 20 years. And my style, maybe it's because I'm from Ireland, but my style is a storyteller. So
course.
every time I wanted to make a point, I would use a personal story. I'd go shopping with my wife at the weekend, and I'd be trying to develop a story from our interactions with salespeople in stores and whatever it might be. And I can't tell you how many times employees came to me and said, "Look, your meetings are way more interesting because you're telling us a story. We're all waiting to see what happened at the end of the story, right?" And so I do think, I don't know I ever 100% put the storytelling together with the advertising as well as I should have, but I do think it's super, super, super impactful when you can tell a story.
And I'll tell you why.
Hmm.
Remember what I told you about Brian and being adopted?
Yes.
Whenever you shared stories with your people, they understood what Alan believes, but more importantly, why he believes it.
Mm.
What makes Alan the way he is? What makes Alan think, speak, act, and see the world the way he does? The way that you speak, the way that you think, the way that you act, the way that you see the world is because of the things that you've observed, the things you've witnessed, the things you've experienced, the things that moved you toward joy or frustration. And when you share those stories, people go, I really know this guy. I not only know what he believes, I know why he believes it. I know what made him that way. Well, now they know, like, and trust you.
Watching the Elmer's ad, Roy.
Uh-huh.
So I never shared this in an ad, but I have shared it from the stage as I tell my story. So my dad was a laborer. He had no skill. So he worked in the Irish glass bottle company where they made glass bottles. And he cycled to work. He never knew how to drive a car. So he cycled to work, 3 miles to work, 3 miles back. And he did that 4 times a day, up, back for lunch, back after work, back. And in Ireland, the weather is not great most of the year. So I watched him getting on the bike in the rain and the snow. And what he gave me, Roy, was the gift of work ethic. He never had the opportunity to give me anything of monetary value, but he gave me the gift of work ethic. And that has served me better than anything else he could have really given me. But as I'm sitting listening to Elmer, I'm thinking, I should have done an ad about that.
Oh yeah,
Like that would
absolutely.
resonate with the public because it's a true story. Like
You know, I'm so glad to hear you say that because I
Mhm.
promise it's true. And I'm not saying that to make you sad, but I'm
no, no,
sad.
no.
But look, you were wildly, wildly successful and continue to be wildly successful, even though you didn't do that, which proves what I said earlier. The best thing that advertising can do is accelerate what was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
Mhm.
you succeeded without tapping into your superpower.
Right.
Now you're beginning to realize what your superpower was, and you're going, "Oh, gee, I should have tapped into that."
Yeah.
Well, it worked out fine anyway,
Yeah,
Alan.
okay,
You
okay.
did fine without
Yeah.
doing that. But I'm saying, could you have gotten even bigger, even faster? Yeah,
Right.
you could have,
Right.
but you did fine.
Yeah. Yeah. No regrets, right?
That's
But,
what I'm
you know,
saying.
yeah.
You did fine.
Yeah.
Loved all this information about storytelling. So impactful. We're switch gears just a little bit, and we're going to watch one more of the advertisements that you've done with a brand that you've helped build, and then we're going to unpack that, and we're going to call it a show.
I'm Aaron Gaynor with Eco Plumbers, Electricians, and HVAC Technicians. If you call us to repair your air conditioner and then you replace it a few years later, we'll give you back the money you paid us to repair it, up to $1,500. It's like a few extra years on us.
Hey, show him the thing, Aaron.
It's like having your own air-conditioned piggy bank.
I think it's adorable.
I think he looks chilly.
All right, there's a lot going on here, but the thing that I want to talk about is actually the Get Eco ECO.
Uh-huh.
Because to me, that's a type of brandable chunk. We haven't talked about brandable chunks yet, but that is a brandable chunk.
Right.
So, would you unpack what a brandable chunk is and how that one came to life?
Okay. So, Aaron and I are sitting at the shore, which you've been to. It's a restaurant.
It's a wonderful
Yeah.
restaurant.
And so we're sitting at the shore, and Chris Torbay, one of our partners, Chris is staggeringly brilliant. And Chris had been listening kind of quietly, and he asked a question. And as soon as he asked it, I went, oh, I'm embarrassed I didn't think of that. And he said, Aaron, what is the name of the company exactly? And he said, Eco Plumbing. And he said, yeah, but Eco Plumbing is in California. So what's your actual domain name? And he said, it's geteco.com. And I went, ding, 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 ding. Wait a minute. I said, the single biggest challenge we have is to separate the name of the company, Eco, from the website they need to visit. Okay. And so this little TV thing, the real magic is in the 60-second radio ads.
Mm.
And so the character, his little sidekick that shouts from the other room, like Neighbor Wilson on Tim the Toolman Taylor, you never see Jerry. Jerry is a really, really, really fun character that brings out the best in Aaron, but it takes 60 seconds. It always does. And so what happens is we wanted to finish every ad by showing you geteco.com.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the last thing you see. It's what's called the law of recency. It's actually, you can Google that, the law of primacy and the law of recency. The first thing you hear and the last thing you hear are the most easy to remember. What's in the middle is harder to remember. And so that's true of everything you read. It's true of everything you hear.
Yeah.
First and last things. The idea is that, again, and this is going to sound, I'm embarrassed to have to bring this up twice in one show because I don't like to admit it. But same exact thing that happened with it's time for us to come and go gently, gently. So I'm waking up middle of the night from a deep sleep, and I'm doing Get Eco, ECO, Get Eco, ECO. And I'm doing this in my head over and over and over. And so I went upstairs, went into my little recording studio, and made, now Chris Torbay has a younger brother named Michael Torbay, Michael's about 50. Chris is somewhat older than 50. Mike, if he's not 50, he's closing in on him. But Michael is an extraordinary world-class musician and has a world-class recording studio in his home in Toronto. Okay. And so anytime I need an audio signature, that's not a jingle. That's an audio signature. And so we use it as a separator. And so like in a 60-second ad, when there's a little nugget, we have some information, and then all of a sudden, get eco, ECO, and then we're talking about something else. So it's a turn of a page, if you will.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of a new chapter. And so this one little 1.5-second thing, boom, that's kind of popped in there. It's just, it's a chant, if you will. And I went upstairs and I recorded. I still have the recording that I sent to Michael. I said, look, I said, this is what I'm hearing in my head. I'm going to sing it for you several times. And I said, I'm in my mind, I'm imagining like the guys, if you ever see the Polynesian Culture Center in Oahu, and you're seeing these fire dancers and they're from Bora Bora or whatever, and they're doing all these, things with these big drums and all. And I said, and also like Japanese samurai. I said, this really masculine, fierce kind of a thing. And it's get eco. And it's like warlike. And I said, so there's some boom, 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 drums. There's this, and I said, and then you hear it's like little Japanese geishas going, ECO. And so he woke up and he listened to this thing. And he sent me an email and he says, hey, this is, and he sent me photographs, by the way, because on his wall in his recording studio, he actually has photographs of the instruments I'm talking about.
Wow.
And he says, what you're hearing is called a taiko drum. And then he sent me a recording of what a taiko, it's those are the ones, if you're ever at Epcot, and when you're in front of Japan, you'll see this two-sided drum. And it's like each drum head's like 6 feet tall. It has these guys wearing loincloths, and they have these great big, like a baseball bat with a thing on the end, and just going boom. The other guy on the other side goes boom. It's boom, 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 like this.
Yeah.
That's called a taiko drum. And then he says the other thing is also this ancient Japanese instrument, and it's like a marimba or a xylophone. He said, but it's actually made of little bamboo slats, ting, 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 ting. And he says those two instruments were always part of the same culture at the same time. And he said, and so this weird reference that you're making about, these warlike characters and the thing, and he says, you're hearing a taiko drum and this one little thing. And he goes, so that's what I'm going to use. And I said, okay. And I said, now, how are you going to create these two voices? Well, see, Michael is an unbelievable singer, and he can multi-track his voice, and so sing with himself 12 layers deep.
Wow.
12 different voices, 12 layers. And his son, have you ever seen the cartoon of Thomas the Train?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Thomas's best friend, I think it's engine number 9, I forget his name. His little boy makes big money from being the voice of that engine.
Oh, wow.
On Thomas the Train
Wow.
worldwide.
Wow.
And so Michael's son, I'm not going to say his name, but I have a picture of him, and he never tells his son how much he's being paid for that. He just thinks it's awesome to go do that. So his kid is singing the ECO part. And so it's Michael Torbay and his son. And so they sing it. And so he recorded both of them at 12 different pitches. And then he put it together. So when you hear, get eco, ECO, it's memorable. And so what you're looking for something that is sticky. And so get eco, ECO, we want them to understand geteco.com. And then we show it at the end of the ad. And so instead of going to Eco Plumbing, we need them to remember geteco.com. And so that audio signature is a way to sing something into a person's unconscious mind and to their subconscious memory, so that it's the first thing you think of and feel the best about, and you're not even sure why.
I love it.
And so that's what that's all about.
Hey, Alan, did you know that Roy and I do a show that's called Todd Liles and the Wizard of Ads?
I think I might have heard that somewhere, Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's a really interesting show because for people that like this type of exploration, they can check it out weekly. And
There
I
you
just
go.
wanted to plug that real quick. So, Roy, thank you so much for your time. This is amazing. Thanks for actually peeling back the curtain, showing us how you think and how the wizards work, and also exposing us to the fact that there's 85 plus partners that are super talented. And chances are, if you're listening to this, then you're probably interested. If you're interested, reach out. I'm sure we can help you out. Alan?
Thank you, Roy. I learned
Alan,
so much
I
today.
am so
Yeah.
glad I finally got to meet you. It's the whole reason I came to do this.
Well, I'm glad I got to meet you, Roy. It's I've heard your name for so many years, and Jonathan Bancroft. We can't seem to have a conference call and talk about marketing where Jonathan doesn't bring up your name. Like it's every time, and so I said I've got to meet this
Listen,
guy someday.
let me
I
put it
didn't
this
know
way.
how it was going to
Let me
happen.
put it this way. I admire Jonathan far more than he admires me. Let me tell you that.
I doubt that's possible, but
Yeah.
he's
I promise
a
it's
big
true.
fan.
I promise it's
He's
true.
a big fan.
It's true.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and taco lover Todd Liles.